Hi, everybody. So, this morning we are going to do a little study of human inheritance. We've been talking a lot about plants and animals and how they get their alleles from their moms and dads, but we're going to focus this morning on humans in particular. So, this is found in Chapter 5, Section 1 of your books. Your teacher will tell you on what page to take these notes. So, let's get started. By the time this lesson is over, I will be able to identify some patterns of inheritance in humans. This is our first goal. And I got to tell you, this is complete review for you that you're going to see here in just a second. So, and number 2, to describe the function of the sex chromosomes. This is new to us. So let's get after this right now. So, number 1, our first goal. Remember, our first goal was to identify some patterns of inheritance in humans. How do humans get their genes? Well, some traits are controlled by a single gene that have 2 alleles. This is old news to us. We've been studying this for weeks now. You could get a big B or a little b. That's one gene. It's the B gene, represents some trait. But there are 2 alleles, and the alleles are either dominant or recessive. We know that. Example, getting dimples or the widow's peak. Look at this little child over here. Boy, he ever have dimples. And so getting dimples is either, I can't remember if it's dominant or recessive, but I mean, either you get them or you don't. Same thing with a widow's peak. Look at this cute little fella. His widow's peak right here. If you guys have seen any reruns of The Munsters, really popular TV show in the 70s, Eddie Munster is the epitome of having a widow's peak. So look that up sometime. So, but this is controlled by one gene. You either have the gene, the dominant, or the recessive, which either gives you the trait or it doesn't. Humans can get traits that are caused by single genes that have multiple alleles. But remember, you can still only get 2 alleles from your parents. Blood type is an example. There are 3 alleles out there. There's the A allele, the B allele, and the O allele. And 4 different ways you could get different blood types in the human world. So multiple alleles, but you still only get 2 from your parents. And then the last type of inheritance is polygenic inheritance, many genes. For example, height in humans and skin color in humans. All controlled by many genes. So it could be the A gene, the B gene, the C gene, the D gene, the E, F, you get the idea. Plus, within that, you can either get the dominant or the recessive. But they all interact together to give you your final height and your final skin color as you grow up and become an adult. So let's get on to our second goal, which is the functions of the sex chromosomes. So up until this point in the background here, I've had a picture of the human genome. That's called a karyotype, a picture of our genes. And this would be gene number 1. You get this one from mom, this one from dad. Number 2 from mom, from dad, etc., etc. And so, but the one we're going to focus on is our 23rd pair of chromosomes, and these are called the sex chromosomes. Okay, that's these guys right here. So the first function of the sex chromosomes is to determine what your gender is going to be at fertilization. If you end up getting an X from mom and an X from dad, you're going to grow up to be a female. If you get an X from mom and a Y from dad, you're going to grow up to be a male. So girls, if you're a girl, you're going to get 2 X chromosomes and they match. In other words, whatever gene is right here that controls some trait, that same gene for that same trait would be right here. If this is the gene that controls some trait, here would be the gene that controls that trait. These are just flipped from each other. So that's the obvious difference. Boys, you could get 1 X and 1 Y, and they don't match. Just size alone shows you they don't match. The other thing is that if there's a gene right here that controls some trait, there's no match over here for that. And we're going to look at the implications of that. What does that mean for being a male? So, as far as sex chromosomes and fertilizations are concerned, all human moms, all of their eggs have X's in them. 100%. All their eggs carry 1 X inside. But that's different with the dad. 50% of his sperm have an X and 50% of his sperm have a Y. And so if you get this egg from mom and this sperm from dad, you're going to grow up to be a female. If you get this egg from mom and this sperm from dad, you're going to grow up to be a female. If you get this egg from mom and this sperm from dad, you're going to grow up to be a male. If you get this egg from mom and this sperm from dad, you're going to grow up to be a male. So in the human world, all organisms have a 50% chance of being a female and 50% chance of dad. 2 out of 4, 50%, 2 out of 4, 50%. And it's the male that determines the gender of the baby, okay? Because mom only has X's to give, but dad can give an X or a Y. If he gives a Y, we're going to have a male, okay? Another function of the sex chromosomes is to carry genes that are called sex-linked genes on them. And these genes carry traits that are found on the sex chromosomes. Notice this is in red, it's a vocab word, so make sure this gets highlighted in your journal. An example would be red-green color blindness. Okay, let's look at the key here. This means a normal female, this means a female carrier, and this is a man that is colorblind, right? He has red-green color blindness. And so let me just quick show you how this works with a quick Punnett square. And so what we're going to do is we're going to cross the parents here. We have a normal female, so we'll put her here. That means she's X and X because she's a female, and she has normal vision, so I'll use a big B for normal vision. Okay, and we're going to cross her with a man who is colorblind. So because he's a man, he has to get one X and one Y, and he's colorblind, so he's going to get the little b. Okay? Now notice they don't match. Therefore, there's no big B or little b over here to work with this. So if he gets one little b, he's got it. So here are the options for their children. They could have this egg and this sperm get together, and if that happens, this child is heterozygous for color blindness. Okay? Or this X could get together with this Y. Then we'd have a male, and he'd have the big B from mom, and he could be, this would be a female, an X from mom and an X from dad, and this one would also be heterozygous or a carrier, or this egg could get together with this sperm, and we'd have a little boy, and it would be big B from mom. So we have a 25% chance of being a female carrier, a 25% chance of being a female carrier, that's 50% right here, or we have a 25% chance of being a male normal. So this would also be 50%. So here's their 50% chance of being a normal male and a 50% chance of being a female carrier, okay? So if they have a girl, she will be a carrier. If they have a boy, he will be normal. Now, we're pretending for the F2s now that this female, which is a carrier, marries a normal male. And let's do that one very quickly over here so you can kind of get the idea of how we do these sex-linked Punnett squares, right? So here's our female, and she's a carrier. Remember, we're crossing her with him. And he's a male, so he gets an X and a Y. Oops. He gets an X and a Y, and he's normal. So he's going to get a big B. Okay? So here's the possibilities. This one would be a 25% chance of being a girl. Big B, big B. She has normal vision. We have another 25% chance of being a girl. But this time, this one would be heterozygous. In other words, she's a carrier. Okay? And this, remember, there's always a 50-50 chance of being a boy and a girl. So here's our 50-50 chance of being a boy and a girl. Okay? And this one would have the big B from mom. And this one would have the little b. Okay? So if the F1s, these are the F1s, got married, these would be the F2s. Here's a 25% chance of being a female normal right here. Here's a 25% chance of being normal male, which is right here. Here's a 25% chance of being a female carrier. Here's the female carrier. And a 25% chance of being a colorblind man, which is right here. Okay? So that's how you make the Punnett squares for these. Another example would be hemophilia. Hemophilia is a disease, a disorder of the blood, in which if you are hemophilic, that means that you have fewer molecules in your body of clotting. And so when you and I bleed, when we get a scratch or a scrape or something and we bleed, after a while we stop bleeding just normally, and that's because our blood clots. Hemophilics don't have that molecule in their blood to clot their blood. And so if they have absolutely no molecules, they could easily die, bleed to death of something like a paper cut because there's nothing to clot their blood. Most of the time, hemophilics have some of the clotting agent in their blood, so it just takes a long time. And they have to still be very, very careful because if it's a huge wound, and it bleeds too fast, they may not have enough of the molecule inside the blood. But at any rate, it's a bad disease to have, of course. And so the example I'm going to show you here is one of royalty. It's a classic example of English royalty passing down the hemophilic gene throughout the ages. And it goes all the way back to the 1700s, where Edward married Victoria as in the 1700s. And they had a daughter named Victoria. So once again, let's just do the Punnett square here for these two. Oops, let me get up my pen here. And so this would be, we have Edward here that is normal, so he's going to be a big X and a Y. And so we'll put him up here, and he's normal, so we'll give him a big B. And then Victoria, of course, is X and X. And because they had Victoria here, their daughter, who is a carrier, that means that Mama had to have one little b. Now, she didn't have two little b's, because if she had two little b's, she'd be colorblind, and she is not. So that means she had to have a big B with a little b. And so here were their chances of having their children and what their children would be if, the percentage of chances. Big B and a big B. And we got a big B here with nothing, and we have an X and an X. And this one would be a big B and a little b. As I'm doing this, try to anticipate what I'm writing and see if you're getting it. Okay, and this would be a little b. Okay, so here we go. So they had a 25% chance of having a female, XX, that was normal. They had a 25% chance of having a female that was a carrier. They had a 25% chance of being a male that was normal, and a 25% chance of having a male that was blind. And so this is what they got. This is Victoria, right? Because she is a carrier. And then Victoria married Albert in the 1800s, and they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 children. And you can see that Beatrice was a carrier, Leopold was blind, Arthur was normal male. Or no, this was not their child. A carrier female, a normal male, and normal female. But Alice was a carrier. She married Louis, and they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 children. Carrier, and blind. Fred was actually blind. So, and then Victoria, when she married Albert here, had Leopold, who was blind, and Beatrice, of course, was a carrier, as well as Alice. And so I'm not going to make all of these Punnett squares for all of these children in their F2s. So you can do that yourself now that you know how to do it. Here's the key down here. Normal male, square, white. Circle white is a normal female. Square red is a blind, or not a blind, a hemophilic male. And then a circle, half circle is a carrier female. But once again, if you're a male and you get one little b, you're going to be a hemophilic because there's nothing on the Y chromosome to offset that, to be dominant over. And so that's how it works with these sex-linked traits and what the implications are, especially to men, since their Y chromosomes do not match the X's, so they don't get two alleles, they only get the one allele. So I got a question for you. Joe's mother is colorblind, but Joe's dad is not. Is Joe colorblind? So go ahead, draw a Punnett square in your journal, see if you can't figure it out. Here's another one. Can either of Joe's two sisters be colorblind? And is anyone in the family a carrier? So make 3 Punnett squares here to answer the question. Give you a few minutes and then we'll discuss this in class. So hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. This is a way cool unit. Really do enjoy it. So we'll continue this discussion.